Hey y'all, hey, welcome back. I have another guest. Yes, she is fly. Hello. I'm gonna have you introduce yourself to all the folks, tell everybody everything about you, and then we'll just get into some great topics.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here on this podcast. My name is Chetina Hunter, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Yeah.
I also am a consultant. I'm a speaker. I'm the creator of a podcast, Breaking Barriers and Mental Health Discussion. And I am the owner of Always Live Lovely, which is
Yes,
my mental
ma'am.
health service where I offer a lot of different consultation services and a bunch of goodies, just to make sure that you're taking care of your mental health. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. I listened to this other podcast called I haven't listened to a lot of other people's podcasts, but one of the hosts says, we talk about mental health and mental wellness because who in the hell wants a musty brain?
Oh,
And
there ain't nobody.
nobody. His name is Dustin Ross, so I want to make sure I give him his credit. But it's for the Friend Zone podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, he always says that, and I'm like, damn, I can't wait. I'm gonna use that one day. So there it
Who
is.
wants a musty
Yeah,
brain?
right. Who wants a musty brain? So I was listening to a couple of your podcasts, and the Freedom one just came out in May.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought it was interesting and really kind of goes into the work you do. And I want y'all to go listen. I'm not going to tell you about the podcast. I'm just going to tell you that I listened and I want y'all to go listen. The links are all everywhere, so go find it. But one of the topics you talked about and kind of touched on for you personally, but also in your work, is recognizing when you really need help.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we talk about getting help, which I'm a witness, trying to find help can be really difficult. And I don't know. I feel like it's so many layers. There's a lot of barriers. We also have like a lot of stigmas. Our religious beliefs sometimes keep us
Mm-hmm.
held down. Our family traditions, our cultures, all those things kind of hold us back. And so it kind of brings it back around. Like, why? Tell you know, one, why you think that is? Why you do what you do to kind of help people move from, hey, I don't know how to find the help, or because people don't know what they don't know,
Right.
to finding the help that they need. Yeah, and why it's important.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, even just in kind of reflecting on like what you were saying, it has me thinking, even just in communities of color, or more specifically, like the Black community. I know, especially with, Juneteenth, just this being something that just happened,
Yes.
and kind of I was watching High on the Hog on Netflix, which made me all types of emotional.
High on the hog, high on the hog.
Yes.
Oh, from the South. Okay, yes. I haven't watched it.
Yes, and it's based around cuisine, but it has so much information that I didn't know, and it really just had me just thinking about the resilience of like Black people, and then how even so, like with being enslaved people, how there was no mental health care. So I mean, when
Right.
you really think about it, it's like from the beginning of time of landing foot in America, like the Black community had to figure out how to just keep going, basically, and maybe go within self and go within community to figure out
Mm,
how to keep going, turn to religious practices, turn to Black spirituality in order to keep going. But, nobody really had a therapist sitting down with them and talking to them and
mm,
helping make sure that they were okay. So it really was dependent upon yourself, the community, keeping it in house, because you can't really let your weaknesses be shown. And
mm.
it's very apparent, like it became more apparent to me why we can tend to be like that, and different communities are like that because of what their ancestors may have went through. And we
Yeah.
know within the Black community, it's like you don't tell everybody your business.
Yeah, and that's it. What goes on in this house stays in this house,
Right.
which is
And
terrible.
right. If you connected back then, it's like, that's like showing your weakness. And if
Yeah.
like the slave master, which I hate that term, but if they saw that you had a weakness, ain't no telling what
Right. Well, they would use it against you. It was psychological warfare more than it was anything else.
exactly. So
Mhm.
now it's like if people were to see that you have a weakness or you're struggling in a mental health way, we get very self-conscious about that because we feel like
Mhm.
that means that we're incapable, or it's kind of like I'm outed in some type of way, or I'm vulnerable, I'm exposed, like nobody
Yeah,
needs to know X, Y, and Z. If I tell them what's happening, then there's no telling what the repercussions may be,
right,
especially say if there's like child abuse or some type of abuse happening. You don't want to
right.
know that. So it's like I work a lot, especially with being my authentic self, with letting people know, like, hey, we got physical health, spiritual health, and we got mental health. And
Mhm.
in order to make sure everything is working on one accord, we got to make sure we're taking care of our mind. Because society already don't value our mind. They
Right. Ain't that it? That's
going
exactly it.
and moving and not caring, and then when you
Right.
break down, they just replace you like like it's nothing. So it's up to us to really make sure that we are strong mentally, and I really
Mhm.
like try to help people just get over the hurdles of feeling like you're being exposed or you're being too vulnerable because you're hurting more in the dark than if you have somebody there that's helping bring some light to the situation.
Yeah.
And honestly, with the lot that I do with Always Live Lovely, I know everybody ain't feeling the mental health thing. Everybody don't want to go see a therapist. Some people think it's just like the movies and they talking to shrinks, or you just go like read their minds or something.
Yeah.
So I try to make it to where in any interaction that people are having with me, whether you're sitting down with me one-on-one, whether I encourage you and hook you up with the therapist, if they meet me in my 9 to 5 where I am their therapist, I try
Mm.
to make sure that if that's not their jam, that people are still able to leave with some skills or tools that they can apply.
Mm.
Some people just want to be like, I don't want all that fluff love. Just tell me, how can I go to sleep at night? What's some things I can practice? How can I
Yeah.
get over this anxiety and get my breathing right? What's some things that I can practice? So I try to just
Mhm.
meet people where they are, to where it's just like, you can have something, like another
Yeah.
something to take care of yourself. And sometimes that just breaks the barrier a little bit easier.
Mhm. Yeah, because I think sometimes when we think about mental health, there's so many intersections to your mental health, right? Your body is the telltale sign often, right? Where, um, like for me, we were talking in post production, but for me, not drinking as much anymore, if ever, is a priority for me because it just sparks my anxiety.
Right.
And I will be needing to like recharge, get away from people. But in the meantime, not sleeping, feeling
Mhm.
anxious. And then what feels like anxious to me is my stomach or acid reflux.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm grinding my teeth, not in my sleep, but during the day. I've cracked a molar, having that level of anxiety. Um, and it's not always just talking to my therapist. Sometimes it is practicing things that help me feel centered. So for me, one of my biggest things is routine.
Mhm.
So I went to Hawaii a couple weeks ago or a month ago. I don't know. It was a while ago. I was in Hawaii and like stopped doing my routine, and it's been really hard for me to get back into it. But I had to force myself and really prioritize that time in my calendar. So it's like get up in the morning, this is what you do, and
Mhm.
then even if I don't hit everything, because it's not about perfection, right? It's about those small things over time, making you, having you be more apparent, not apparent. What do you call it? Present is the
Right.
word that I'm looking for. Sorry. Being more present for yourself is a part of your mental health. Knowing when to take a break from something
Right.
is mental. You're helping your mental health, and I love that you said finding like I want you to leave with something.
Right.
And I wish we got I w- I wish we okay, why do you think we don't hear that more, right?
Mhm.
Why is it like the strong focus on getting a therapist? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that cuz I don't believe in therapy. I'm saying that because there are different ways
Right.
to help support your mental health.
Mhm.
Cuz even my therapists tell me all the time like, "Oh, well you should try this, different things." So, why do you think that is? Why do you think that that's not really a huge conversation or we don't hear a lot about it?
Um, I mean, it could just be because of being westernized. I mean, a lot
Mm.
of times that's what it always boils down to, and kind of having a European centered view on things. I know that I took a huge, 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 very influential training on decolonizing therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna look up her name because I definitely want her to get her credit.
For sure. No
But
worries. No
on
worries.
Instagram, her name is slipping my mind. But definitely being able, that really shift and made me think more about like what's most important.
Mm,
And like I said, sometimes therapy isn't people's jams. Like, everyone's gonna push, go see a therapist, go see a therapist, go see a therapist. But honestly, like, therapy, everybody has different needs. And
mm,
something that you just touched on, which is so important, is the ability to be able to check in with self, be able to quiet
mm-hmm.
down enough to build that relationship with self, to know what it is that you need in order to be your best self. And so
Right.
even when it comes to going to therapy, for some people, all they may need is like a session or two, and they're good. Some people
Mm.
need more intensive therapy, and they need to be in that thing for a couple of years. Some people need about 10 sessions, it's bada boom, bada bing. And if for some people
Yeah.
they try it and they try it again, they try it again, they're just like, this just isn't my jam. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that therapy has to be everyone's jam. I do believe that, like, if you can be able to get introduced to it, great, give it a try. But if not, people are very resourceful. People are very
Mhm.
resilient. And, I want it to be like, for because society already has it set up to where it's a luxury to even be in therapy, everybody's not
Mm.
going to get that opportunity. So if it means being able to figure out how to resource yourself with what you already have and building on top of that, that's to me something that's really important, because the whole idea should be, I remember in grad school they used to be it used to be working yourself out of a job to where the world is a better place and they don't even need therapists, which of course,
Right, right, right.
but
I know that phrase. Yeah.
right. You don't want people to be leaning on you, because the point is that they should be able to lean on themselves.
Mhm. And be getting
Have
better.
that, yeah, autonomy. But when it comes to, it's a business at the same time. So
Mhm.
people want to also attract things to their business, because therapists have to get paid, even though society doesn't value and doesn't pay therapists a lot. Still have to make a living. But
Yeah.
I just feel like we have this idea that we're supposed to be individualized, caring only about yourself, doing only for yourself, but nobody even really teaches you how to do that. Like, we're taught all these other
Right.
skills in life, but nobody's really talking to you about how to really make sure that you're good.
Yeah. I'm obviously not a therapist. Well, not obviously, that's not true. But I'm not a therapist. I'm more so I've been in diversity, equity, and inclusion for a really long time. And hi, welcome to the Discussion podcast, y'all. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. But you know, I feel like it's kind of in the same vein when we start thinking about how we want change to happen, how we want wholeness to happen for a human being. It isn't, yeah, it is do everything for yourself or whatever. But I have found, even in the work that I do, that there's so much power in community and so much power in the village. Now, your friends cannot be your therapist. They
Absolutely.
can support you. They can show up for you. They can help you put a plan together. They can go on walks with you. They can do all the things that are supportive. So I just want to make that a caveat. But and to also just acknowledge that yes, society, we live in a capitalist, white supremacist society, which rewards othering. And so when you are constantly othering, you don't get a chance to really be as self-reflective. What you do is present as this solo person.
Right.
But if you do listen, y'all, Google is still free. The good sis Google is free. You can find information about how we are all communal, especially Black and Brown folks.
Mm-hmm.
Our whole existence is based on it. And the unpacking of trying to fit into that colonialized idea of taking over shit all the time. It's not healthy and it doesn't feel good. And to feel alone
Mm-hmm.
in those processes, I think is something um, that should be talked about more. Not just alone, like I'm alone in the world. I mean, like alone in the work that we do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, alone at trying to get better and not feeling like you relate to someone, feeling alone, even if you have a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
which has happened to me because we just didn't relate. It didn't like I've been in therapy since I on and off since I was 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God for my mom really pushing that because it really did save my life.
Yeah.
And it gave me some tools. And then I had to go back because I had to get more tools,
Right.
right? And then, like, most recently, I had to do it again because my life is changing, the world's changing around me. Who I was when I was, 14, those things don't work. But what was the hugest difference this year and in my work as a DEI practitioner was really understanding that there's a huge barrier and when we have to ask for help
Mm-hmm.
and finding those spaces to be vulnerable. We've a lot of people say vulnerable a lot, and I know that made somebody cringe, but to be vulnerable, to be open enough to share, like, hey, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's a huge part of that. And I'm wondering, is that also something like I've been reading a lot about? There's this app that's out. I can't remember what it's called, but they give group therapy.
Is it no, not open back, like real therapy? No.
Is it like is there logos like green and white or something like that? Like earth tones?
No, that one is blue and white.
I don't know. Anyway, it's
Okay.
something along those lines. And do you think that that's helpful for people? Group therapy? I've been to like AA, but I've never gone like group therapy.
Right.
So like, do you find that that's helpful? Do people find that helpful as well? Or is that something that people should
Mhm.
consider
I mean,
or a part of that?
right. So kind of like what I was saying before, which is knowing yourself.
Mm.
Knowing what you need. Now, I'm a person that's totally like, don't knock it until you try it. Like, always try something a few times before you just chop it off the block. And something else that you kind of talked about that highlights and kind of ties into this topic of like what service is actually
Mhm.
appropriate for a person is like,
Mm.
yeah, you've been in therapy for a huge chunk of your life. But with each new step and each new age, each new chapter you enter in life, it comes with new obstacles. It comes with new battles. So sometimes it's more so about, yeah, you got the skills and the tools, but maybe those aren't quite working right now. Maybe
Yeah.
you got some in the beginning that you kind of need to dust off the shelf and try those, or maybe you need
Mhm.
some new ones. And it's okay to know that returning back to therapy for one doesn't mean
Mhm.
that you messed up or doesn't mean that you are being defeated or doesn't
Mm.
mean that you just are going back to square one. That's not it at all, because it's
Yeah.
a continuing journey. We're on a
No.
continuing journey throughout life. So I'm very happy that you like point out like you had to keep going back and keep going
Yeah.
back, keep going back.
Yeah, I stay going back. Like, girl, like I was gonna say something derogatory, never mind.
And,
But yeah, no, I stay going back.
but
Yeah,
that's so
absolutely, because
important,
it's so
right?
important.
Right.
It's so important.
Right. And
Mhm.
you may try out individual therapy and you find out like, okay, maybe that wasn't necessarily what you need. Maybe what you needed is a group. Or maybe you tried out group and you realized that wasn't what you needed. You needed more individual therapy. Now, for people that, you know, there's a bunch of different ways that you can peel the onion with group therapy. And,
Okay.
sometimes people do need assistance with trying to figure out if that's going to work for them. And so sometimes it is helpful to have a session or two with the therapist. And if they're connected, say they hold their own type of groups, they can kind of resource you out. Sometimes at the
Mm.
college level, there's a lot of groups and workshops they can resource you out as well. It really is going to depend on if you're going for something that's more of like a workshop open group to where you can come and go as you please, or something that's more of a closed group, because there are things that
Mm.
are closed group and you got to go through a whole bunch of processes in order to make sure you're going to be a good fit for it, and
Yeah.
stay for a certain amount of time. There's something
Mm.
that people can get from group community, of course, because community is
Yeah.
so very important. But honestly, I've met some clients and a group is just not their jam. Not
We back there. It's just
well,
not your
some
jam.
people it's like, oh no, like you wouldn't be a good fit with the group.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
totally okay. And that's what
Yeah.
makes it beautiful is that there's a variety of services for people, to make sure that we're covering all types of ground. It's just a matter of
Mhm.
finding what you need, which can be really hard. So
Yeah.
sometimes finding there's a lot of people that I'm noticing are creating a bunch of new groups that's so necessary that I think is absolutely amazing. So like I say, it's always good to try it out and see if that's something that you want. Sometimes the groups, I'm not gonna lie, they're typical to what you might see in a movie or something, but sometimes they're absolutely different and they're not.
Mm.
And that's come more to pass and more true because we've been living in a pandemic. So people have had to become very flexible, trying to
Yeah.
still get that group feel, but like keep it open, be understanding with what the structure looks like. And
Yeah.
it's just a lot that's really gone into it.
Mm. Mm. So tell me how what you do, why it's important.
Hmm. Yeah. So basically, what I was saying was when it comes to trying to figure out the services for you, I know that some people think that, first, let me put it like this: finding a
Okay.
doctor ain't easy. Finding a dentist you like ain't easy, especially if you got a little trauma in there. if you think of it in that way, and you're just like, dang, like sometimes that's hit or miss. It
Yeah.
really makes sense that finding a therapist can sometimes be hit or miss. And when it comes to having a therapist, and honestly, working with any type of professional that's on your health team, relationship building is key. And I know that when it comes to therapy, because there's so much stigma and barriers based around it, people like want that quick fix. They want to go into therapy like this, like ain't nobody seeing me up in here.
Yeah.
I don't want nobody to know I'm doing this. So
Creeping through.
and it's like it's not that easy. And one thing that I've noticed is people don't understand. They think therapists and they automatically think psychologists. And everybody's not a psychologist.
Okay.
There's so many different types of therapists that's like under this umbrella that meet needs in different ways. And then that's where I come in. So a lot of people, will try to be like, okay, I can do this on my own. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Because it's seen as a luxury, sometimes it's not the easiest, especially if you're going through it yourself with trying to locate a therapist. And lo and behold, if you want a Black therapist, it slims the chances even more. And so people will think that they could just go through this quick process. The first therapist is going to be good and golden. They're going to be fixed in a couple of sessions, bada boom, bada bing. But what people may find is that like, oh, I'm tired. Like they're sending me through all these loops and hoops. I don't know how to navigate this system. So I'm just going to give up and it's whatever. I'll just suffer. I'll just go with what I know. Let me drink, let me smoke, let me do whatever that's getting me by anyway. Or some people may find like, okay, I got a therapist. This therapist sucks. Now I hate therapy. I ain't never going back. Like I'm never going back because they got the game twisted. That's and then it's like, now that's all jacked up. Some people will keep trying, but they don't quite find that sweet spot because they don't know how to name exactly what they need in order to look for it. So that's where I come in. I have a service which is individual consulting for people. I either will help do the work with them because I need people to know how to have that feel. So I'm not just going to make all the calls for you and then tell you who's a therapist, at the end of the week or whatever. I need you to understand the process, understand the different types of therapists there are, be able to identify the specialties that you may need them to have, and be able to learn the advocacy skills so that it's not throwing you off of the bridge or whatever. It's not throwing you all out of whack to where you want to give up on the process when you deserve the treatment.
Come on, deserve.
You want. And then also being able to let people know all their options because people may not know how you can actually get therapy in a way that might be cheaper than having to pay out of pocket. So when you get to the point to where maybe you don't have time in your week, then it's like, okay, I'm able to help you make some calls, help you make those ends meet. And then sometimes because of the pandemic, a lot of therapists have had waiting lists. So it's trying to understand that process too and help you to be able to maybe learn some skills in between time to help maintain until you're able to get into the room with the therapist. So it's really being able to have somebody there to hold your hand throughout the whole process. So we're able to get you well suited with somebody that could be a good fit for you. Because people are like, what do I need to pay you for? When, like you said, that's good. Just Google over there. Okay, well, Google.
I know that. I know that's right. Yeah.
It's my human experience.
I mean,
walk you through a therapist is like golden.
Yeah. I think one of I say one of the things a lot, and I'm trying to get out of saying that. So I found that when people really need something, they will seek it out. They will pay for it. I think I also believe that it's imperative that you find out that you need something and you find somebody to help you get it.
Right.
And it's that ask that I was talking about earlier. Yes, Google is still free. And so I usually really refer that to people changing the way they think about things and not asking. I mean that in more activist space, but I also think you can, to me, in my mind, based on what you just said, like I just had to do some work to find my son a new therapist. He hasn't been in a couple of years, but he's getting older. And he's also a queer boy and just growing up as a Black child. And we just let the pandemic, stay in place. And so if I'm affected, I know he's affected, right? And so going through that process, there's privilege in that knowledge, and getting the right information is imperative because yes, you can Google, okay, let me Google a therapist. But like you said, the different types of therapy, what kind of therapy they offer, all that is so, it really, it really is, like you said, what did you say? It's not your jam. Some stuff it just
Right.
isn't, like I don't think I'd ever do like Reiki, but sometimes people like people love Reiki. I mean, that's not therapy, y'all. I'm just saying, I'm using that as an example. For me, it's yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And I love teaching it. I love participating. I'm still a little nervous about teaching it, so y'all please don't ask me when I'm gonna have a class. I promise you. Give me 30 days. I got just please. But I love yoga and I love the breath work that comes with it. So the reason why I want to teach it is because not only is it representation, but I feel like there's not enough real beginners classes to help people feel comfortable. You're
Right.
talking about people's bodies, especially women. We don't feel comfortable to be showing our bodies in that way or contorting it the way people like,
Right.
damn, can you give us some instruction, please? Like, what is happening? So I feel you. I think that's really a really great area to be in. What made you decide to consult in that way and really kind of be that bridge?
Right. I think honestly, frustration. Like I always say that like at least once or two times a year I get on the soapbox and I'm frustrated with everything. I'm like, forget the system, or something happens and I'm just like over it all because
Yeah.
I just feel like it shouldn't be this difficult. I mean,
Mm.
we we need mental health support, and the fact that I have even had to, I've hit roadblocks with people like in my 9 to 5 to where I'm like, this person needs help or they need help to feel safe or they need this. And it's just like, at a
Can't
certain
get
point,
it.
people are like, oh, this is all that we can offer. And in my mind, I'm like, no, it's not. Like, are we really doing all that we can do to really help
Mm,
people? And I get frustrated when it's just like a person can be in crisis and then you give them a list of long things to do, or here's all the things you can contact. How can they really sit there and help themselves get connected if they clearly just told you they're in crisis? Like some things in some protocols, it doesn't make sense to me. And so I get real frustrated. And so Always Look Lovely, it's been around for a little bit of time. It started out as a blog in 2013. Like it's been morphing. And so when it got to 20 2020 and we really making
mhm.
it something official, it was just more so figuring out how can I fill the gaps. Like I said, I have other services too, but I wanted
Yeah.
to like just the individual services. And it was just noticing like, okay, the reality is people like it's for adults. But it's like I've noticed that if the adult knows something, then it can trickle off to other people in your friend group, other people in
Right.
your family. If you have kids, you're able to just navigate systems in general. And I've known people that have died by suicide because of, and it's not that they didn't even have support, it's the whole navigating the system part. But the system fails people. People can easily fall through the cracks. And I noticed in my 9 to 5, I will go above and beyond. I will call somebody if I haven't heard from them during the semester because I work for a university. I will
Yeah.
go one by one through the whole list of everybody I've seen just to be like, okay, who didn't I hear from? Where did they leave off? Let me just call and say hello. And I noticed
Mhm.
after nighttime, they'll be like, I'm so happy you called because someone just died or this happened. And they just couldn't find the strength or figure out, like, should I go and like talk to the therapist? What should I?
Mm,
And then I noticed, like, because I work for the university, a lot of people graduate and then they're like, okay, can you come with me? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't do that because, but it's not a system set up to where it's an easy transition to where they're able to connect themselves. And the way that at work is like, you only have so much time, and I can only do so much to get them connected
mhm.
somewhere else. And then
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to have a service so that people could just understand more. Or maybe like you said,
Mm,
you have a kid and you're like, I'm a mom, I'm struggling, I don't really know how to get connected. How do I understand this whole system? I don't work directly with kids in my business,
yeah.
mainly with the adults.
Mhm.
But when mama knows, when daddy knows, when grandma knows, like
Yeah.
when people know, then it just makes things 10 times easier. And then it's also
Mhm.
knowing like I said, if therapy is your jam, or you're like, I honestly can't afford it and I don't know when I'm gonna be able to afford it. Then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. Well, I have a service to where if you know, dang, I feel like maybe this could be anxiety. I feel like maybe this could be depression. Then I can educate you. I'm not gonna diagnose nobody because it's not
Yeah.
therapy that I'm doing. I'm doing consulting. I can hook you up with the therapist, but right now I'm not offering therapy services. But I can
Mhm.
educate you on what does depression look like? What does
Mm.
anxiety look like? What does stress look like? What are these things looking like? What is the tools that you have already? Because sometimes people realize they have a whole bunch of things they already know how to do. They just may not be working the skill right.
Mm.
Help them understand that and know like some everyday effective tools that you can use and put into practice to help you just be able to maintain. Because honestly, capacity wise, sometimes that's all people got is the ability to just be able to maintain. So I
Mm.
just wanted to make sure that, because let's be real, I'm from East Oakland, and everybody just
Same girl.
has,
Hi.
they just can't afford it. So it's just
Yeah.
I want the community, the people that need it, to be able to have something affordable. Because it's not like I could charge more, but I was like, no, I just want to make sure I'm getting my value, but that people are able to put it in their budget and still be good. Because oh boy, that's around the block. He's not about to go to a therapist, but I want
Yeah.
to be able to
Yeah.
come on my platform, whether it's Instagram, seeing a free post, listening to my podcast for free, or sitting down and doing a one-on-one with me over Zoom, just being able to feel like, okay, somebody out here got us. Like somebody out here is trying to help make ends meet and really understanding.
I'm gonna name the podcast that somebody out here got us.
Somebody out here got it.
Somebody out here got us. I love that. Um, so tell me about, so we've used the word capacity a couple of times, but what do you mean when you walk us through what you mean when you say capacity when we talk about mental health, right? Because
Yeah,
people, I think sometimes people equate capacity with their mental health and not your capacity to deal with the things that you need to do
right.
with mental health.
Right. So it kind of goes with like there's this term called like John Henryism that tends to go it's kind of based around John Henry and kind of working yourself to the bone to where you
Mm.
die because you just overworked yourself and feeling like that's that mentality that you have to have. And I feel like in society, like I said, we're taught to go from one thing to the next. We constantly go over our health is not prioritized. So we go to work
Mm-hmm.
when we're sick. We go to work when somebody just passed away. We go to work when we're not mentally well because we have to keep pushing through. So honestly, society is building us up to not be in touch with ourselves, to even understand what our capacity is. And by capacity is how much can you hold? Like
Mm.
how full is your cup really to where you're able to spread yourself amongst all these different responsibilities that you have that's on your plate. And if you're out of touch with that, people burn out quick. And you wonder why does my stomach hurt? Why do I got different symptoms? I got headaches 24/7. Why am I not eating? I'm not sleeping. And it's because you haven't been able to really check in and figure out what you're even running off of.
Mm-hmm.
Everything
Mm-hmm.
needs to be energized. We need to put gas in our car in order to get it from A to C.
That's it. What a great analogy.
Like, how
Mm-hmm.
do you figure? You have to be able to refuel yourself. And if a person has too much that they're already dealing with, like mentally, people may not have the capacity to show up for themselves to where you can sit with even a therapist week to week. Like, you may not be able to be present enough to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
you get enough bang for your buck. Like, people, may have children, they may be married, they may be single, like whatever the case may be, maybe they're caregivers. And it's like, okay, trying to figure out where does their energy lie at the end of the day? Are you creating space to even do basic self-care of things? Can you just brush your teeth consistently? Can you
So
what?
listen, when I was down, brushing my teeth felt like it felt like just the biggest chore on earth. I could not believe how much it stressed me out. And I think it was also the grinding of my teeth. So my
Mhm.
jaw would be hurting. I didn't really want to open my mouth like that. Like, but yeah, when you said that, I was like, whoop, yep, me. Cause
Yeah.
I was just like, and all this is work,
Mhm.
braces, headgear, netgear, my whole life, a whole bunch of money and work have gone into this mouth. Shout out to my parents. Cause it definitely wasn't me. Um, but even that just seemed like such a chore, just the capacity. But I could get up, I'll, take a phone call on Zoom in my bed like this. And as soon as
Right.
somebody called my name, I'll just turn on my camera and be like, hey, and
Right.
talk and then lay back down, like, trying to maintain. And like you said, I think one of the phrases you use is we're just trying to push through.
Mhm.
And I think we have to stop just trying to push through
Mhm.
because you can't do it. And when I think about capacity, I'm always thinking about a plate. You said cup, that's a great one too. But when we look at our plate, um, when we think about plate, we think about food. But just think
Right.
about like in a workspace when someone says, "Do you have what's all on your plate?"
Mhm.
Right. So when we think about our lives and how we show up in the world, it's work, it's school or education or your lack of education, your vicinity to uh, to have access to privileged things like healthcare, uh, being in a food desert, your home life, your relationships, your intimate relationships as a parent, like all those things are on your plate. And when we think about capacity, if your plate's this big,
Mm-hmm.
you ain't gonna be able to hold too much.
Nope.
So then we have to start prioritizing you in that space.
Right. What needs to come off?
Yeah, exactly. What needs to come off? Because you know what? You may not be able to quit your job right now
Mm-hmm.
because you need that coin so you can continue to, eat and do whatever. And then maybe you and like me, I was like, I just decided I could not continue to work in a place that I felt like
Yes.
was not suitable for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a little privilege there
Mm-hmm.
because I've been in this field for a long time. So I don't necessarily have to have a 9 to 5. I enjoy it because I love the work. I can't love the work more than I love me feeling okay.
Right.
Because I can't give if my like cup, bowl, whatever. If I'm completely empty, there is nothing I can give.
Right.
Not in my true self. And if I am, I'm squeezing it out. Like I'm on fumes, right? You can't keep going to the ATM and you don't put money in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually you'll overdraw or you'll pressure cook and you'll explode
And you're
in
sick.
some way.
You're sick.
Exactly.
And now you got
Yeah.
to take off work.
Now you got
You gotta,
exactly, right?
you know,
You gotta take off. Yeah. And it's like, and then now you're, either you're going to intense therapy or you're in a treatment center, which also costs you money.
mm-hmm.
It's like all this gatekeeping and the othering that we keep seeing in this space. I think that's why I love seeing this um the IG therapist model being shown and redone over and over for different groups of people, not even just um, for therapists or people that are familiar, but just everyone's different. Like some folks are focused on queer folks, some people are focused on, this or that. And I feel like it's such a great awakening because it's making these conversations so much easier. I feel like I'm having more and more conversations, especially when we talk about disenfranchised folks or marginalized people, the importance of therapy. And for those of us in roles supporting other Black and brown
Right.
people, but also supporting ourselves and getting the help we need. Because um, I feel like we need a different kind of help.
Yeah.
Because it's like we know it, we know the knowledge, we know what we need to do, when we know how to help other people. But when we start thinking about that capacity
Right.
and what that means, our passion keeps us going, but it's not sustainable over time.
Right.
And so I want to kind of shift us a little bit because I want to talk more about you and how you kind of show up for yourself in that space as a person in this work. How important, not how important, but where do you feel that whew, how like small is that line of taking care of yourself as a person taking care of others,
Mm-hmm.
on top of the things that intersect, right? Being
Right.
whether you're Black or you're queer or you're straight or come from impoverished or whatever, all these intersections. Where is that fine line? Maybe you can speak for yourself or what you've seen that fine line is for folks doing this work for others, but also having to go back and do the work for themselves.
Right. So I feel like the fine line is the burnout. Like when you're starting to get out of touch, you snapping at everyone. When you're at work or when you go home.
Get out of my business, okay? I need you to mind your business.
Like when the clock is 5, you running out that joint. Like you just like, bye, gotta
Yeah,
go. So like I'm
right.
here, like your happiest day is with your happiest time is when it's time to go home.
Yeah.
Like, even for me, it's been like when I'm numb. And usually that has happened when I'll say when all the murders were going on, plus living through a pandemic. I'll just put it out there right now. I don't even watch the news at all. I get what's happening on the news through like my family or my friends. I can't handle it. And I learned that because me checking in with myself, recognizing what was going on, and that I needed to be able to show up for people and my capacity was low. So sometimes I'll know, like, okay, I can't help in this arena. Or if I'm feeling numb, numb looks like for me, people are like, how are you doing? It's like, I really don't know. I'm able to fully show up for other people, but I can't really quite put a finger on how to show up for myself. I'm kind of just going through the motions because I'm emotionally and personally on overload. And it usually takes me a good cry in order to like just get like let that erupt a little bit. And then from there I'm able to pinpoint and find my language again of like, okay, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I need, these are the things that I need to do. So I'll know kind of like, you know, what my thin line is, and I've gotten it's practice. It's practice because
It's
something,
that muscle. It's
yeah,
a
like
muscle
I
you
said
gotta flex.
earlier, is what you need at one point may be different a little bit later. So you got to be open to continuing to learn and grow with yourself, and kind of doing this dance of learning who you are at each stage, and really being able to just pause, even day to day. I would pause and be like, "Girl, if my mind is running." Or if I just feel like I'm feeling uneasy, I'm not feeling grounded. It's like, okay, Chetina, what do you need? What do you need right now? If that looks
Mhm.
like me just turning on music and dancing around my office, then
That's my favorite thing
that's
to
what
do,
I'm gonna
honey.
do.
That's what I did today. Just got up, got dressed, and I was like, "Let me put some music on." Was dancing in the mirror, like,
Oh, I'm feeling some fruit. Let me go eat some pineapples. Like I need to
"Come
go
on."
for a little bit of a walk. I need some fresh air. I make sure that I do that, whether it's been me working at a home office, at an office when I'm on campus, like throughout the day when I'm not even at work. If I'm just feeling overloaded, it's like really me being like, what do I need? And maybe that means like, okay, after this session, if I'm really just not feeling it or something's wrong, I've learned to speak up about it. And luckily, I work for someone like my supervisor, my boss is understanding, and she sees this as humans. So if
Mm,
something has gone on, she doesn't. She is very good at making us be like, "What can you handle?" Like,
mm,
this is too much. Like, that's too much. If she see us doing too much, she'll tell me quick because she know I will go above and beyond for my clients. I'll go above and beyond for them students. And she's
I love it.
like,
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
know
hell
that
yeah.
you're doing this, and I really want to check in with you because I don't want you to get overloaded. So
Yeah.
it's really like that check in is so important because my mind can become blurred,
Mm,
so passionate. So
mhm.
sometimes I know, like, okay, I'm about to be running on empty, but I'm like, this person needs me. And I also had to recognize, like, people will be okay for a moment if I'm not there for the day. People will be okay for a
Yeah,
moment if I need to step away. Like,
yeah.
the world is not going to explode and just crumble.
Yeah, I tell my staff or with my team, I always say, "The house better be on fire and you're in it if you
Mhm,
call me and I'm on vacation."
mhm,
Like, it bet I mean,
right,
and I don't mean better like threatening them. I really mean there's not much, especially for if unless you're like an EMT or a
right.
on-call doctor or something like there's or what's the other one? Firefighter.
Mhm,
There's not much that happens even if you're in this space, and I just want to affirm what you're saying. When you're helping other people, unless it really is an emergency, which oftentimes it's not, uh, take a moment and take a breath because, like I was saying earlier, if you are not your plants aren't watered and like you're not going to produce fruit. And my goal in my own life, and I've been talking to this more often, is doing less harm
right,
as much as I absolutely can. And like you said, when you snapping at people and like you might be over it now, but now you've now it's a ripple effect. Or
right.
when you're supporting others, maybe you did too much or too little,
Mm,
right? Or not being able to recognize something that uh, could have been helpful, or whatever that thing is. Really being cognizant of that when you're what was the word you used? You said not finding yourself in tune with yourself,
yeah, being like being centered, basically.
being centered, yeah, and really being able to kind of call out like, okay, or even knowing your triggers is huge for me.
Oh, yeah.
Mine is like my headaches.
Mm,
So I have migraines with aura.
mhm.
So they're debilitating. They can get, I mean, I used to have someone pick my ex at the time. Well, he's now my ex, my boyfriend at the time is what I'm trying to say. My fiance at the time would have to come pick me up. I'd be driving and I could feel my eyes just closing in. And once you get like
Mhm,
that aura and tunnel vision, and
mhm.
migraines for folks that don't know, you can't really see. and all you really want to do is just like hide under covers.
Right.
And I'm talking about mid commute in the Bay.
Yeah.
So I'm in on the freeway for a good 2 hours. I ain't even made it past the Altamont, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's dangerous when you're not paying attention. And I found myself not eating well, not drinking enough water, not, you know, coffee's my shit. I love coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm again not I can't drink coffee like that anymore. Like it's just my mind's going too much and the work that I do requires me to be on. So
Right.
I don't need coffee. Like
Right.
I like it.
Right.
I don't like decaf. So I'm guess I ain't gonna drink it. So I've been trying to do other things, or even when I think about alcohol, right? And again, I want to like put this out there for folks. I'm not telling you not to drink alcohol, but I do implore you all to examine your relationship with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And even that, like I said earlier, the grinding of the teeth, the spike in anxiety, and then the hard come down from it. Like it's too much. Even though it's so social for us, especially our age group, it is such a social thing. But checking in with myself is a constant, it feels laborious as hell.
It is.
You know, but now I'm getting used to it, and more I'm like, okay, Dre, time to take a nap, girl. That's it.
Right. And that's
Party's
okay.
over, you know, and I get out of a place real quick. Like, peace out, y'all. I'm gone. People are like, wait, what? It's no, bye. Like,
That's real. That's real. That's you in alignment with your higher self and what it is that you need. And we can easily get knocked
yes,
off
come
of
on, higher
the
self.
alignment. We can easily get knocked off the alignment, but our higher self knows what's best. But if we're not in tune with that, things just go haywire. And so it's okay for you to be like, I gotta leave this function early. Like it's okay for people to say no. It's okay if all that people were able to do was roll from one side of the bed to the other side of the bed. Like some things just have to be okay. And even when I'm working with people and I'm like, you've been in bed all day, but you have this major goal, I'm like, can you just sit on the floor? Can you
Just move.
open your blind and let the sun just get on you just a little bit? That's what success looks like. That's what success looks like. We have to stop thinking it needs to be these big grandeur things of making we're top tier, but it's thinking that if we're not these machines that clearly society has made us think we are, then we're lazy. Like
And we're not.
get down on our self-talk.
We're human beings.
Negative. And it's like it's just not humane. Like it's not human to be able to function in this way. Like
It's not, and it's not sustainable over time.
Right.
You
Even if
cannot
you
do
are
it.
like a first responder, they still need time to stop for a moment and be okay because they're always in front of trauma and becoming traumatized with all that they're doing and all that they're seeing, all that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
So they still have to be able to check in for herself, and even if it just means taking a couple of deep breaths, that's self-care.
Yeah. I love having this self-care conversation. I think coming from Stay in Place last year with all of us really, again, going back to that idea that we are communal.
Right.
And making this shift, even if you're an introvert, most people didn't realize how much they relied on just being at work and being around people. Maybe they didn't, you know, stand on a podium like you and I do, but the interaction, the energy you feel from other people really helped them feel human.
Right.
And so now we have all these blockers. Now I've been used to distributed workforce for a really long time, but I still had the out to go outside. And be around people. And with Stay in Place, it just wasn't. And so I'm always wondering, like, what the long term, and not that we need to answer it, but I'm thinking now, what are the long term effects of this past year, 2 years, on top of the political climate that we were all in, is really important for us to do exactly what you just said. Sometimes it's just the small things.
Right.
You cannot do everything all the time. It's not possible.
No,
it's just not
okay. People have to be okay with saying no. And I know that's hard for people that are people pleasers. But I mean, how much, like you talked about with your plate, it's hard for you to just hold a plate that has a lot of food on it. Like, and sometimes if we really think about it, when we're hungry, when we're just like, you know, our eyes can be bigger than our stomach and we'll just keep piling on, thinking that we need it this much. And then when we're in the process of eating it, we're like, I didn't need all this. And now you're like, what do? Do you keep going because you don't want to be wasteful? Or do you say enough's enough and learn how to push back from it? So this is enough for me. I'm good right here. Let me just walk away for a little bit. You can always save it for leftovers and come back. Come back to
there we go.
Come back what needs to be done. It's going to be there. It ain't going to go nowhere. Like, able to figure out like what is your appetite, same as
Mm-hmm.
capacity. What is your appetite? What is your capacity? How much is it that you can hold before it begins to make you sick?
I love that. That's literally it. What a great I'm all about parables and analogies because it needs to live for people. Seriously, I think that's why it's so important to see us in these spaces because we really talk like that, right? We talk in ways that are relatable, and they touch on certain things. And I'm just so grateful to be having conversations more and more like this in this space, and even talking about self-care differently because it's
Right?
not white girls that look like pixies and
Oh
fairies. It is
no.
all of us. For me, self-care was me coming back to my hotel room. I didn't have to be here, but it was coming back to my hotel room and just being by myself for the last 24 hours,
Yeah.
right? Taking yesterday off to prepare for the rest of the week. I've completely forgot I had my final doula certification thing this week, but it's an intense all day for 3 days.
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna be able to do nothing else. So like the next 2 days, I got a lot of work to do. But if I hadn't have taken yesterday,
Right.
I would have been so out of touch with myself. I would have been feeling really stressed. I probably would have had a couple of drinks in a
Mhm.
coffee cup, like, okay, girl, we're gonna have to, because sometimes that is all you have. And I'm not saying whether, and I'm using alcohol because I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about anyone
Right.
else, right? But it could be anything. It could be sex. It could be your
Mhm.
romantic relationships. It could be working out too much, like whatever, or really self-sabotaging ourselves,
Right.
because that's what happens to me when I am overwhelmed, and not taking care of myself. Then it becomes self-sabotage, right? Instead of just being intentional about that time and not doing for me, doing absolutely nothing
Yeah.
and making sure I'm eating and drinking water is self-care sometimes.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
because I'm
What about
so busy all the time. And it's like, what's the opposite of me being busy all the time? Doing absolutely nothing. And thank
mhm.
goodness my son's older and I share him with his dad. So I have a lot more wiggle room. My 9 to 5, I don't have a 9 to 5 anymore. So it is based on me. But I still have to be responsible too. And there's some
Right.
discipline that comes with regular self-care, regular mindfulness, regular eating habits, regular body movement,
Mhm.
saying no. Like, saying no is my bag.
Mhm.
That's my shit. No, no. Oh, I called you. Okay.
Right.
What's up? Did you need something? No, you didn't want anything, right? Like, I'm not giving up my personal time. Now, there'll be times where I know, like in the next couple of weeks, I'm on a super sprint because my accountability buddy crew got me doing I was sharing this with Chetina earlier, but I got a lot of stuff to do in my health and
Right.
nutrition practice. I
Mhm.
do. And I just have been procrastinating. I started falling back on my DEI stuff, and I can do the DEI stuff in my sleep, but that's not where my heart is anymore.
Mhm.
And I got to be honest with myself. It takes too much for me. So now it's time to shift. And that goes back to that village piece that I was talking about. Like, my accountability buddies would be like, called me while I was out at Juneteenth, like, hey, you were supposed to send me something. What happened? I'm like,
Ooh. Right.
I'm gonna do it Sunday, I promise. Like, but that's important, right? That, for me, that's self-care. Because my personality is always go, 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 go. So everybody
Right.
thinks I'm good all the time. And I'm not
Mm.
good all the time.
Mhm.
It's just not real. It's not a real thing for any of us. I don't care what you think this person has going on. It's not real to be good all the time. It's
Right.
not.
Nobody is.
Nobody. Now, there might be varying levels of good and not so much, but that too is okay. And recognizing what you need or figuring it out. And I just really love that you said finding what works for you, because everything's not your jam.
Right.
We just don't talk about that enough. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So I do like a little quick fire, what do they call it? Fire round of questions.
Oh.
My favorite question is, if you could describe the importance of therapy in 3 words, what would they be? Oh, 3 words
Importance
only.
of therapy in 3 words. I would say, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh. Um, growth,
Okay.
um, alignment, and growth, alignment, and I would say having an open-mindedness.
Okay, open-mindedness. Okay, good. That was perfect. That's
Yeah,
the
for sure.
that's the hardest one. That's the one people are like 3 words. Wait, what? No, I can't. And I'm like, yes, you can. Do it. Push it out. I got you. Um, and then my last question for you, and then I'll open it up for you to share your stuff one more time. Any parting words, all that good stuff. Maybe 2 more questions.
Mhm.
Um, what do you want to see as we continue to grow as a society, especially as a community in this mental health space? What do you want to see change or evolve into?
Yeah. I really want to see people being more forgiving of self
Mm,
because I don't feel like we're as forgiving of ourselves as we need to be, and that makes the mental health journey 10 times harder. We're not perfect. And it's kind of like, there's like I think it's a Maya Angelou quote that's like, let me think of how does it go? It's something about, do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better.
yeah.
And I tend to like, keep that kind of near to my heart because it's like we do the best that we can. Your parents did the best that they can. You're doing the
Hmm.
best that you can. The people before them did the best that they can with what it is that we got. And that's how it continues to be. That's the continuum. We all do the best that we can until we know better. And so I'm really just hoping that people can be more forgiving of themselves and more open to knowing that this doesn't have to be something on the hush hush, something on the low. The only way that we're able to actually be able to heal is when we bring things to light. It kind of reminds me of there's this I sometimes do stuff with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention because suicide
Hmm.
prevention is something near and dear to my heart. And I would do the walks pre-pandemic, which was called Out of the Darkness. And we would walk
Mm.
at the crack of dawn when the sun is down, and as we're walking, the sun is coming up. So it's like you're literally coming
Oh wow!
yeah, and it's just such a beautiful thing, and it would happen at Lake Merritt for the Bay Area chapter, and it just kind of reminds me of that coming out of the darkness and knowing that there can be some guiding lights, and knowing that you can lean on community, and knowing that even if you feel like you're isolated and alone, like you're really not, and you don't have to be, and finding the strength to keep pushing forward as much as you can, and when you can't, being able to build community to where you can lean on them. And you don't have to
Mm.
go through things all because we always sometimes think I can't tell people this. Like this is too much for a person.
Yeah.
It's not too much for people. People would rather know what you're going through and try to figure out the best way to help you instead of you thinking you're a burden. So it's
Mm.
really like I just have like this vision of everyone just getting to their best selves and they're glowing.
I love it. Me too. That's my yeah, girl.
Flowers,
Yes.
like
Absolutely.
feeling good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then lastly, share some parting advice from folks, and then tell folks why they should come see you immediately.
Yeah. So some parting advice would be, like I said, don't knock it till you try it. Like a lot of people think that they are going to get what they saw in the movie, but bad. Have you not just heard what you see a little bit of my personality with what we just did here? You might end up with somebody like me. I definitely try to be as authentic as I can be because it's so important for people to know that therapists are people just like them. We're taught in school to be very like, oh, nobody can know anything about me. Everything is deflected upon
That
you.
disclosure.
Yeah,
Hmm.
putting things back on you. You're never going to know anything. And I'm just like, you know what? People want that realness. They want that authenticity. They want to know that you're human and that you really get it. And
Hmm.
so I think it's important for you to find someone that you can build a good relationship with when it comes to therapy. Now, for some people, knowing it's okay if it doesn't look like traditional therapy. Figure out what
Yeah.
scam is, like we've been saying, as long as it gets you to be mentally well. Now, that's not saying you go out there and you continue to do the drug of your choice and you continue to be drunk all the time and you continue. That's not what we're saying. But what it is saying is finding things that could be healthier alternatives for you as you're kind of like working out that area of your life, figuring
Hmm.
out how you can get to be your best self. And I
Yeah.
feel like when it comes to people being there to see me, like I got you. Like I do my best to be available to people. I do my best in trying to make things affordable. I really want people to not feel like I'm just out here all alone in a system and a society that is already probably built up against trying to make sure that you're mentally well. And then so
Yeah.
really being able to come see me. I know we've talked about my individual consultation services, but I also work with schools. I help them
Mm.
to be able to have better work relationships, understand how trauma looks in the classroom with kids,
Mm.
just being able to understand mental health in that realm of things, because not only do I work with college students and I've worked with the homeless population, but I have a passion and I've worked with from, I say, daycare age all the way up until middle school. And then so I do
Mm.
tend to help like elementary, middle, and high schools be able to, the adults, because I noticed even in that work, it was the adults that really they need the help.
Always.
And if it was the adults, I was like, okay, the kids sometimes they got their own thing going on, but sometimes they're a little bit more resilient than what's going on over here with the
The
adults.
kids are resilient.
Literally,
It's wild how resilient they
literally.
are.
Then what's
They're
going on
so
with the adults?
ready and open to learn and grow and feel better. Like they get the concept
Mm-hmm.
of not doing shit that they don't want to do. Like they
Right.
get that concept and it's so beautiful. I'm so proud of our next generation of kids, but that's
Right.
another
They're
podcast.
so witty. And it's like I even be able to help offer support with parents if something has happened and they don't feel
Mhm.
heard, being able to do that. In addition to those things, I love to speak clearly on podcasts, different events that people have. I love being able to I have my podcast, Breaking Barriers and Mental Health Discussion, which check it out, y'all, because it's literally me helping break the barriers of what it looks like to have conversation with people about taboo topics that people don't
Yeah.
usually sit around and like talk about. Like I may
Mhm.
present as something of like, I have some on Section 8, suicide, marriage. I did one on myself of freedom and talking about my mental health journey. COVID, like there's so many different, and it's going to be coming back in the fall. But that's definitely, it's free and it's so informative. It's on YouTube. It's on all of the podcast platforms.
Platforms.
So that's a good
Mhm.
way to get a good breadth of knowledge and a good way
Mhm.
of just seeing what other people that are day-to-day people, what they're doing, how they're going throughout their journey. That one is very important. And then on top of that, I tend to blog a little bit. My website is www.alwayslivelovely.com. And I'm hoping to be able to have merchandise, like, things that whether it's wall decor or, it's shirts or, for all we know, being able to have tangible products that can help people, because I'm
Yeah.
very passionate on helping you learn how to take care of your mental health. Whether
Mm.
that looks like going to the therapist or that looks like you just already working what you already know and making it a little bit better for you to be able to be okay. So, I mean,
I love
I'm Kia. I'm girl. Come see Chetina.
it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming and
Yes,
chatting with me.
thank you for having me.
If you ever need my big ass mouth for
Oh, of
something, let me
course.
know. Just come, just hey, girl, I just need, just give me a topic, I'll be fine. I don't even need prep. Um,
No.
but I do really sincerely appreciate you and the work you're doing. I think people don't know how important it is to have someone help you. It's kind of, I was thinking kind of like a school counselor when they good ones, not the bad ones,
Right.
help you get into college because your people don't know. You're
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out like, okay, maybe I'm doing job readiness instead of college, or maybe I'm going to a CC versus a university, right? Like those are but not knowing your options. Like how many of us have
Right.
made not great decisions about our school choices and later on in life we're like, why the hell did I even, right? Like, and I feel like it's the same thing with this, and I think it's just even more important.
Right.
And having these conversations, tapping into free resources and tapping into folks, um getting a good like a good palette of different things. That's why I love the idea that a lot of therapists are really coming out on social media like, no, you're a person and we're people too, and we get it. It's hard and it's not always just rainbows and you leave and it's great. Sometimes you leave and you got to like go home and lay down. Like,
For real.
I had therapy sessions where it was like the day is over. I
Oh
have
yeah.
got to go take a nap,
Oh yeah.
So it'd be great to have someone if you're new to this and trying to just figure it out and understand. And just like Chetina said, like maybe therapy, the way that you think therapy is supposed to go doesn't work for you. And so make sure your ass goes over to all of her things, all her links, all that will be in the show notes.
Always live.
So go find her, go link up with her, find out what you can find out, and get right. Cause there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broke.
Oh
You're not
no.
broken. You're not crashing and burning. You just need to evolve. And in order to evolve, you got to grow, get out of them small ass
Yeah.
shoes. Now
Ask
it's time
for
for
help.
bigger shoes.
Ask
Ask
for
for
help.
help.
You
Ask for help.
can't do it by yourself.
And don't feel shy. Like if you feel weird, shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to connect you with people, or shoot Chetina an email. I'm sure she'd be fine with
Mhm.
that. But yeah, ask for the help because you don't know what you don't know. And when you're spiraling, when you get to that point, Sometimes it's just a kind word
Mm,
that'll bring you through.
absolutely.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks for listening. I'll see y'all next week.
Yeah.
Bye.